Hi guys, this is Julian Harvey with LSAT Explainer. I'm here today looking at an LR question, test 131, question 23. Before I get into it, I want to say good luck to everyone who's taking the June LSAT. I know everyone's going to do awesome, and if you don't do awesome, watch some more of these videos. So let's get right into it. It says, this year, a flood devastated a small river town. Holyville, also a river town, responded with an outpouring of aid in which a majority of its residents participated, a proportion that far surpassed that of a few years ago when Holyville sent aid to victims of a highly publicized earthquake. This year's circumstances were a reversal of last year's, when Holyville itself was the scene of a deadly tornado, and so the recipient rather than the supplier of emergency aid. Okay, so let's get this straight before we even look at the question. There's a river town. Holyville's also a river town, and they respond with an outpouring of aid. A majority of the residents donate or whatever that this year's circumstances were a reversal of last year's, when Holyville itself was the scene of a deadly tornado, so the recipient rather than the supplier of emergency aid. Okay, interesting. So they were not affected by a flood, they were affected by a tornado. Oh, and okay. A few years ago, when Holyville sent aid to victims of a highly publicized earthquake. So that's interesting. Situation described above most closely conforms to which of the following generalizations? Okay. I am going to predict that it has something to do with the nature of, maybe they see themselves in the river town or something. We don't know that the place that had an earthquake was in a river town, so I guess that's not ironclad or anything, but I'm curious because this is a bit of a doozy of a stimulus here. People are more likely to aid people they know than they are to aid strangers. So it sounds like that's not it, because proportion that highly publicized earthquake. It doesn't say anything about how well they know the people in the river town, or the people who were the victims of the earthquake. So I don't think this is it. Those who have received aid are more likely to be in favor of government relief programs than those who are not. Yeah, it might be true, but it's not related to this. They don't talk about government aid at all. The amount of aid that victims of a disaster receive is unrelated to the extent to which the disaster is publicized. Well, so I don't think that's true, in part because it's irrelevant, but here it's like a proportion that surpassed that of a few years ago when Holyville sent aid to victims of a highly publicized earthquake. Okay, so maybe it's like, I mean, if anything, this would be the opposite, because this was not highly publicized, otherwise they probably would have mentioned it. This was highly publicized, so given the 2 points on the graph, it would actually be a negative relationship. I don't think you could draw any relationship, but this can't be the answer. Once a disaster has struck them, people are more likely to aid others in need than they were before the disaster. I don't know. I'm a little skeptical of this one. Like, once a disaster has struck them, people are more likely to aid others in need than they were before the disaster. We don't necessarily know that. This is just one case. So I'm going to rule that one out. And then people are more likely to aid those who have experienced a hardship similar to one they themselves have experienced than to aid those who have experienced a dissimilar hardship. Well, okay, that's not it either, because Holyville, despite being a river town, they were a victim of a flood, they were the victims of a tornado. The other people were victims of a flood. They sent for an earthquake. This is not it. This is actually a great opportunity. One of the best LSAT strategies is to just go after the questions like it's most likely going to be wrong. So this will happen sometimes. Easier questions, harder questions, any of the above. You'll read through all 5 and find something dissatisfying about all of them. When I find this part, this is exactly what I wanted. This sort of strategy helps you get through questions quicker. So I'm just going to reopen these and take another quick look. This one, I'll go from the top, or go from the bottom, just for fun's sake. People are more likely to aid those who have experienced a hardship similar to one. So I just feel that this is completely wrong. This is still not it. Once a disaster has struck them, people are more likely to aid others in need than they were before the disaster. Okay. After rereading this and the fact that I was dissatisfied with all of these, I think this is probably the answer. They were victims of a disaster last year. They sent a bigger amount of money, or more people sent money, We don't actually, I guess we can just assume it was a bigger amount of money, but A responded with a majority of residents participated a proportion that far surpassed that of a few years ago when Holyville sent aid to victims of a highly publicized earthquake. So the timeline of events is earthquake occurs, they send some aid. And it was publicized. That's important for ruling out C. They are themselves victims of a disaster, and then they send a big outpouring of money the next year when they hear about a disaster in a different community. So I actually feel D is pretty strong. Let's go back over B and A. Those who received aid are more likely to be in favor of government relief programs than those who have not. So again, not talking about government relief. And people are more likely to aid people they know than they are to aid strangers. Okay, great. So just to reiterate, I think that I'm not super certain this will be right, but this sort of strategy will serve you really well. Nix questions quickly and easily, and don't be attached to questions. Don't rather answers. Don't read the answer and try and come up with a reason it could be right. Come up with a reason why it's wrong. You'll save yourself a lot of time, and that means when you find yourself in a position where you've canceled out 5 possible answers, you can spend a little extra time to make sure you get these ones right. But I'm pretty confident that D is the right answer here, so let's give it a look. Boom. There we go, guys. So this is a great learning opportunity. Once again, I just want to reiterate one more time that if you're taking the June LSAT, good luck. And I think I took the LSAT again today. I hope I did well. I'm not sure, but yeah, if you guys find these videos helpful, once again, just please let me know in the comments below. And if not, have a good one. Well, actually, have a good one either way. All right.